There will be a new champion in the NBA. A new era has dawned. It's Wemby's West. The Spurs are going to the NBA Finals.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to be that guy, but I called it. My last YouTube video predicting the NBA Finals outcome was about as spot on as it gets. I literally did everything but predict the Spurs in 7 games. I said 6 because I really thought if it went to a Game 7, it would favor Oklahoma City, especially at home with the championship experience, but Champagne and the role players stepped up, man. Not very many San Antonio Spurs had bad games, and a whole lot of Oklahoma City Thunder players just did not show up. Alex Caruso, virtual no-show. His most memorable play was a flagrant foul on Stephon Castle that I still have no idea how that wasn't called a flagrant foul after review. I mean, what are we doing here? And I mean, let's be honest, if it wasn't for a huge second half from Case and Wallace, this game's a blowout. I'm sorry. It was never close. At one point before halftime, the Thunder got the lead and the Spurs just came right back, and I think they had a 3 or 4 point lead going into halftime and never looked back. Don't get me started on Chet Holmgren, man. You got to trade his ass, because what the hell was that? That was a pathetic series and one of the more pathetic Game 7 performances from a All-NBA player that I can remember. There's nothing more frustrating than having 2 lanky, 7-foot athletic guys on the court at the same time and them not guarding each other. And then half the time when Chet was guarding Wemby, he was just getting owned. Wemby set the tone early when he just threw that dunk over him, 3 minutes into the game? I think his soul actually left his body after that. But if you're Chet Holmgren, man, I don't know if it was a Mark Daigneault decision or what, but how do you even allow that to happen? You got to man up, accept responsibility, and say, no, I'm guarding him. I'm not going out like this. And Chet deserves to be called out. Just crumbled under the pressure and got ate alive by Wemby. And I get he's hard to contain, but dude, you're all NBA. You're 7 foot tall. You're an NBA champion. Have a little pride and respect. Virtually a no-show. 2 blocks. That's about all I can recall him doing the entire game. I think he had 4 points, and his 2 blocks were his 2 biggest plays of the game. That's not going to get it done. And this is why statistics in all NBA teams are slightly overrated and skewed sometimes, because we're talking about a guy that was 3rd team All-NBA in Chet Holmgren. I'm sorry, but as a Toronto Raptors fan, Scotty Barnes is 10 times the player Chet Holmgren is. And he definitely showed up a hell of a lot more in the playoffs, that's for sure. And he didn't make an All-NBA team. I also said in my last video that SGA's heroics would be nullified, and I was completely right. The dude had negative plus-minus minutes for the series, which for an NBA MVP is absolutely incredible. The Thunder, when he was off the floor, were plus 20. When he was on the floor, they were minus 28. I said Jalen Williams coming back was a bluff. I was beyond right there as well. He only played 3 games in the entire series. And I knew coming off a hamstring injury like that there's no way, even if he was on the floor, he was going to perform like he did in last year's playoffs and throughout the regular season. There was just no way. I said Chet Holmgren would fold to Wemby. We already went over that. Beyond right there. And we're talking about a really bad contract going forward, too. The Thunder have a lot of decisions to make around Chet Holmgren because he's on a 5-year, $240 million contract. And that's your 7-footer that's going to be competing with Victor Wembanyama for the next 5 to 10 years? Yikes. They're in some big-time trouble there. I said Wemby was going to be the best player in the series, and boy was he. Western Conference Finals MVP, one of the best performances in the history of a Western Conference Finals game. Absolutely incredible performance in Game 1. I think he had over 40 points, over 20 rebounds, game-tying 3 from 30 feet out. And I said Stephon Castle would play a huge role, and he did, not only offensively, but defensively. The turnovers were a major issue, and he has to clean those up. He has some things to clean up, don't get me wrong. But the regular season wasn't a fluke, man. Most of those games had a playoff atmosphere, and it showed. The Spurs are the better team. A big reason, too, why I picked the Spurs was obviously because of skepticism behind the health of Jalen Williams, and I get losing Mitchell also had a big impact there as well and helps the Spurs. Don't get me wrong, I think if both players are completely healthy, I think the Thunder win this series in 7 games, but they weren't. Can't come back from a hamstring like that and be effective, and let's not completely put the blame on injuries too, because De'Aaron Fox was virtually a no-show for half this series as well, and he was battling a bum ankle. And you got Dylan Harper, who was likely banged up too. So you can't just put the onus on the injuries for the Thunder. Shout out to the Spurs. They handled business, trotted out the youngest starting five in Western Conference Finals history. And that was impressive to watch, especially winning a Game 7 on the road against the defending champions. So let's not discredit anything the Spurs did. And get used to this matchup because it's going to be the Western Conference Finals for the next 5 years, in my opinion. I really don't see anyone in the Western Conference, unless a drastic change is made this offseason and Giannis goes somewhere. I don't see any team competing with the Spurs and Thunders for the next 5 years. I just don't. They're too good. They're too young. Their management's too good. Yeah, this is going to be what we're seeing for a long, long time. This was just the warm-up, so can't wait to see how things go going forward for both teams. And to be honest with you, I'm actually really worried this loss could help and motivate the Thunder to make some roster acquisitions this offseason. More picks than anyone in the NBA. They have a lot of pieces they can get rid of. I think if I'm them, I'm trying to unload Lou Dort and Chet Holmgren in a package with picks to get Giannis. And if that happens, they're right back as the favorites to win it all next year, even above the Spurs, even if they do win it this year. I talked a lot of smack on SGA for flopping and being a so-called fake MVP this series. But in his defense, man, he had the game of his life, Game 7. He looked great. A lot of pressure on him offensively, battling a great defensive team, and he had virtually little to no help, let's be honest. And the dude's mid-range game, man, it's as good as anyone I've ever saw in my life personally. Some of those mid-range jumpers that SGA was making over defenders, absolutely incredible. I just wish he wouldn't fall and flop so much looking to draw fouls. He fell like 47 times or something absurd like that this series. And that just goes to the major issue that the NBA has to deal with this offseason when it comes to flopping and referees, because Adam Silver going on Pat McAfee's show and talking about how the refs do a great job. Stop with that, Adam. Let's be real. The refs been pretty bad this postseason. The Thunder are out there flopping like fishes getting calls. And I got eyes. I watched the game. Just turn on the tape. It's pretty obvious what's going on. So I hope we get that addressed and we come up with some type of fine or technical foul that the NBA can enforce going forward to discredit dudes from doing that type of thing, because I'm all for being crafty and getting foul calls. I'm not for the flopping and the embellishing and all that extra shit that the Thunder were doing all series, especially SGA. And back to that Caruso play on Stephon Castle, man, that was the definition of a flagrant foul. When a dude is going up for a layup and you make little to no play on the ball and drag them down to the point where they land on their back. Absolutely incredible that was not called a flagrant foul. Also love Dylan Harper virtually tackling him to keep him from beating up Caruso, because that was a dirty play. As far as the Knicks and the Cavs series goes, I was leaning Knicks in 5, but out of respect for Donovan Mitchell, I changed it to Knicks in 6. But after witnessing that Game 1 collapse, I knew the Cavaliers were cooked. There's just no way you recover from that. I think the Thunder had a 0.01% chance of winning in the fourth quarter, down 20-plus points. Then you come back and win. All momentum, any momentum the Cavaliers had was lost after that. I also said in my last episode, predicting the NBA Finals, that Kenny Atkinson was one of the worst coaches in the league. And I'll tell you what, that really showed this series. I'm sorry, but that dude's an absolute joke. He needed to be fired and replaced with a guy like Jason Kidd this offseason. And instead, the Cavs are keeping him around for another year, which I think is a massive mistake. Retaining him and James Harden, expecting different results next year, is stupidity at its finest. For him to be frank, a pretty stupid and lackluster organization when they don't have LeBron James. Harden is washed. I'm sorry. No longer a number 2 option, and he might not even be a reliable number 3 option on a championship team. He folded most of the playoffs. Once again, the turnovers, outnumbering made field goals in so many games, is just diabolical. And he's only getting older while being vastly overpaid. But let's go back to Kenny Atkinson real quick, because I have a major issue with him. If I'm a Cavs fan, I'm absolutely enraged that they're retaining him. I would argue Kenny Atkinson did nothing well in any of the 3 playoff series this year. And 100% he did nothing right in the Knicks series. The guy was just foaming at the mouth with outrageous takes and comments after every single game. And as a player, I would not want to play for him. The biggest tell-all of a great coach is, would you want to play for them? Can they motivate you? Do they know their stuff? Do they know the X's and O's? Do they have a feel for the game? Spurs coach does. Thunder's coach does. Mike Brown at the Knicks, he sure does. Kenny Atkinson has no clue. He comes across to me as an old guy that's out of touch with the game. I would have fired him and hired Jason Kidd like yesterday. I think Becky Hammond's a better option. Hell, I don't know why Chris Paul isn't being talked about as a head coaching candidate, because I think he would be a great coach and certainly a massive upgrade over guys like Kenny Atkinson. If I'm being real with you guys too, I think if the Toronto Raptors have Quickly and Brandon Ingram, I think they win that series and the Cavs don't even make it out of the first round. That should have been what happened, and in that case, he probably would have been fired. But he got lucky because of the injuries. Cavs had home court advantage, undermanned Raptors teams, and they won. Then they go on and play one of the worst 1 seeds in NBA history. I'm sorry to all the Pistons fans and Pistons supporters and people who liked that team, but not a number 1 seed. The offense was absolutely horrible. They're a great defensive team, I'll give them that. And I mean, you go to his post-game presser after Game 2 against the Knicks, he said, "We'll be fine. We just got to go home and get on our home court." You know what happened Game 3 at home? They got absolutely smashed by the Knicks. Kenny Atkinson, post-Game 4, when they lose, says they took a mental step forward and improved. I go back to Game 6, the closeout game against the Pistons. Same thing, no motivation, lack of effort, got blown out at home in a game where they could have closed the series out. The Cleveland Cavaliers are down 3-0 against the New York Knicks in a best-of-7 series in the finals, and Kenny Atkinson says, "Look at the bright side," claiming his team had an upper hand analytically in 2 of the 3 games. No one wants to hear that. And I have a quote here. He says, "I know the general public, no one wants to hear it. Everyone's outcome-based. I get that." Damn right we're outcome-based. What world are you living in? Send Grandpa to the retirement home. He should never be a head coach in the NBA again. Get him an assistant role position or send him to the G League, because that's where he belongs. You have an awesome player like Evan Mobley. Is anyone coaching this guy? Because he shows no aggression whatsoever. Half the time you have no plays being run for him when he's a good offensive option. He's hesitant to attack the rim. This dude has all the skill in the world and the staff is not helping him out whatsoever. Not motivating him, not utilizing him at all. James Harden, $42 million player option. You have the highest team payroll in the NBA. Cavs are in deep trouble, man. And they better hope they can get LeBron, because that's about the only thing that can save that sorry-ass team. But alright, I'm done ranting about the Cavaliers and Kenny Atkinson. Can't wait to watch them fail miserably next year again and finally get rid of him like I've been saying they should. Let's get to what we've all been waiting for. Let's talk some NBA Finals, man. Victor Wembanyama and Madison Square Garden, the rematch of the 1999 Finals. Before I get to that, I just want to first off start off by glazing Victor Wembanyama some more, because the guy's incredible, man. He's the best. I'm a big LeBron James guy. I always thought LeBron was going to be great. Always loved and respected LeBron. Still one of my favorite players of all time. But this guy's an alien. He's different. And post-game, he said, you never know when it's going to happen again. I want to win more than life itself. And this is exactly what separates him from guys like Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic. I mean, last year, Anthony Edwards, after they lost the Western Conference Finals, looked like everything was fine. And he said, you know what? We'll be back. And I'll be ready for when we get back. It's never guaranteed, dude. And it's not looking so much like that'll ever be the case if you stay with the Timberwolves now. Because I'll tell you what, the Timberwolves as they're constructed are never getting by the Thunder. And certainly never getting by the Spurs. Kobe would have absolutely loved Wemby. I mean, this guy's mentality. I go back to the FIBA championship when he lost to Chet and he was so upset he was ripping his jersey. I look back at the Olympics when they lost to the USA in a super close match and he almost led France to a gold medal. The dude was crying. He looked like he just lost the NBA Finals. I go back to the All-Star Game mentality, where the All-Star Game as we know it has been a joke for the last decade. And this guy came in and just instantly made everyone step their game up. He treated the All-Star Game like a real game, was going hard as soon as the whistle blew, and everyone looked around and said, holy shit, we have to try now because Wemby's trying. The stats, Wemby's stats. Through his first 175 games, he has more points than Larry Bird. He has more rebounds than Charles Barkley. He has more blocks than Hakeem Olajuwon. He has more steals than Kobe Bryant. He has more three-pointers made than Steph Curry through his first 175 games in the league. We're not just looking at another great player. We're looking at a generational GOAT who has a legit opportunity to challenge Michael Jordan as the best player of all time. I go back to the calculated answers he gives during all his press game conferences. I mean, I think he got some type of an award. It's slipping my mind, but for the most thoughtful post-game interviews. There's a video I saw the other day of him signing autographs outside of the hotel when all the other Spurs players, you have all these fans and they're all calling him over. Literally every member from the Spurs just got right on the bus. Half of them ignored the fans and didn't even look over. Wemby literally walks over, takes pictures, signs an autograph, and then gets on the bus. I mean, he's just a cerebral, dominant guy that really gets it. And that's the deadliest thing about him. Because a lot of players have the size and the skill, but not a lot of players have the size, the skill, the mentality, the love for the game, the desire to be the greatest. And that's what separates him. Pair that with the franchise he went to, the mentors he has down in San Antonio with Popovich and Duncan. It's super scary for the league, man. I can't understate it enough. And y'all realize a player doesn't even reach their prime till they're 28 to 32 years old, right? This guy's 22. He has 6 more years till he's even entering his prime. And he has 2 other young bucks with him that are 21 and 20 in Castle and Harper. And a great young coach. So this is honestly one of the scariest situations for the league I've saw in my lifetime. It is the scariest situation in the league that I've saw in my 32 years watching basketball. And the Spurs are going to be the second youngest team in finals history. The only team that was younger is the 77 Blazers, and they won it all. So it's definitely possible. But I'm a little bit nervous for the Spurs, I'm not going to lie. When I was comparing the Thunder to Spurs, I talked about the regular season head-to-head matchup. The Knicks took the regular season head-to-head 2-1, including the NBA Cup championship in Vegas, which we all know is a playoff game atmosphere. And they match up really well against the Spurs, especially with Cat. His physicality and shooting is going to be a huge challenge for Wemby and something he hasn't saw yet this postseason. So that matchup's going to be huge. No matter how much I've hyped Wemby up and talked great about him, he has been great. He really pissed me off last series in a variety of ways. He loved to stand at the perimeter and get the ball and just stand there like a statue. You're not going to be able to do that in that series. When he gets the ball at the perimeter, he has to stop turning into a statue and doing that jab step thing and jacking up threes. He has to be decisive and make quick moves to the basket. So I'm really hoping the Spurs coached him up in that regard, and we see him catching the ball at the perimeter and making quick moves and attacking the rim. Because if he stands there and acts like Steph Curry and turns into a statue and allows doubles and doesn't make quick decisions, Spurs are going to be in trouble. I get he can shoot the 3 really well, but by no means should that be his go-to and his preferred shot. And far too often last series it was. In a couple years when he's shooting close to 40% from 3 consistently, maybe he'll be able to get away with that. But this year in this finals against the Knicks and Karl-Anthony Towns, I don't want to see it. I love him catching the ball at the perimeter on the line too, but he has to make those quick decisions and stop turning into a statue with the jab steps. So that's one of the most important things that I'm going to be looking for in this next series. And if you do force the double team, that's great. That's when you can kick it out and find open shooters and cutters. And if they leave you wide open, man, let that shit fly. Go for it. But one-on-one, turning into a statue, jab stepping, it's not going to work. And I hope the Thunder series was a major learning experience for him in that regard. And Karl-Anthony Towns, he's prone to committing some of the dumbest fouls of any player in the NBA. Up until the last couple series, even against the Hawks, I remember he got into foul trouble. So that's going to be a major key to the game, especially if he's on you. Force him to play defense. And if you get Cat in foul trouble, that's a huge disadvantage for the Knicks. Because then all they have is Mitchell Robinson with his broken pinky, who comes in and provides literally no offense whatsoever. So you got to get Cat in foul trouble, force him to play defense, make quick moves to the rim, drive on him, and stick those long arms out. Force him to swipe. The Knicks' depth is going to be an issue in this series. And the Spurs run deep. So the more people you can get in foul trouble, the better. And on that same note, I love Stephon Castle, but he also commits some of the dumbest fouls, overly aggressive fouls that I've ever saw. He committed way too many dumb fouls in the Thunder series guarding SGA. You got to trust your defense and stop with that, bro. And as Brunson's primary defender, that's going to be huge as well. Got to make sure he stays out of foul trouble. He has to be smarter. Use last series as another learning moment like Wemby did, or like Wemby will, I hope. And stop being so aggressive. Trust your defense. Because if he's not on the court guarding Brunson, it's going to be a major advantage for the Knicks. I think matchup-wise, the biggest concern for San Antonio is the experience and defensive abilities of OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Big physical guys, elite defenders. They can shoot the rock, they can score. And those are 2 guys that are going to be huge this series as well for the Knicks. Forget about Cat and Brunson. Those 2 guys are going to have a major impact on the series as well. And if they can step up and have big games and play great defense, Spurs are also going to be in trouble. But as far as the Eastern Conference goes, I'm not a fan of the Cavs at all. The Celtics are missing Jason Tatum. And like I said earlier, I think the Pistons were in the conversation for one of the worst 1 seeds in NBA history. So the competition the Knicks faced was beyond lackluster. And let's not forget, they were tied 2-2 with the Hawks at one point, and people were talking about firing Mike Brown. So I can't just forget about that. Yeah, since they were 2-2 in that series, they went on one of the most historic runs in playoff history. And I'll give them a lot of credit for that. And that's why I think this is going to be a long series, because they're well rested and they're playing well, and they probably have a lot of confidence. But I'm going to be honest with you, the competition they're about to face defensively is going to be the best defensive competition they've faced since arguably the regular season, if not the first round of the playoffs at times against the Hawks. So they're not going to know what hit them at first when they start facing this new test in that regard. The Cavaliers, I look at what the Cavaliers did in Game 1 in New York when they were up 20. That's what it's going to be like every game playing the San Antonio Spurs. And I will say, as someone who's obviously leaning towards the Spurs winning the series, I'm slightly concerned about Wemby's gas tank, because we know LeBron and so many others had to learn about the grind and preparing their body, conserving energy, what it takes top to bottom to win a championship. And by doing this in year 3 as a 22-year-old, it's just unheard of. And he doesn't have deep experience in the playoffs. This is the first time his body's going through anything like this. And we saw him wear down a lot last series against the Thunder. So that does worry me a bit. But the series is either going to cement his legacy and future GOAT status, or it's going to be a major learning experience for him in terms of what it takes to reach the mountaintop. And I do expect the Knicks to steal game 1 or 2 in San Antonio. I'll be the first to admit it. I think the rest factor with the Spurs, they're going to be gassed emotionally and physically from the Thunder series, while the Knicks, I think, had 9-10 days of rest. And once the Knicks win that game 1 or game 2 in San Antonio, the media is going to completely flip-flop like they always do. They're going to start hyping up the Knicks and siding with the Knicks to win this series. I'm going to tell you right now, I expect that, and it doesn't change my opinion of how the series is going to end. Because once we hit game 4, you go from having 1 day of rest in between the games to 2 days. And I think this is when the competitive advantage and experience of playing the better teams for the Spurs is going to really kick into gear. And at the end of the day, once again, I'm going to take Wemby over every player in the series, including Jalen Brunson. And I expect the Spurs to storm back when they have that 2 days rest in between games and win this series in 7 games at home. I think the home court advantage is going to be a huge deciding factor. I think it's going to be a really close series. I think the Knicks are going to give them a run for their money. And the ratings are certainly going to be out of control. Wemby in Madison Square Garden, national television, can't wait. But at the end of the day, I'm siding with the Spurs in 7 to take down the New York Knicks, lift up the Larry O'Brien, and Wemby to officially cement himself as the best player in the NBA. And that's when the conversations begin about how great this guy can really be. And where this finals run ranks all time, to be completely honest with you. Have we ever saw a 22-year-old in his 3rd year in the league lead a team like this? And a team this young with this little experience? Not that I can recall. But I ultimately think it's going to be a really close series. I think the odds makers are a little off. I think it should be a lot closer to a pick'em than it is. And we'll see how it all shakes down. Like I said, riding with the Spurs in 7, so we'll see how that ages. Until next time, talk to y'all later.